The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
Couple of great shows we do here with the Heart of Alabama Food Bank and Michael Cole, my good friend. We do a show called Mission Money. We talk about all kinds of great business things. And, of course, this show comes right after it. It's called Bite, Bite, Bite. A little shorter version here and primarily just about food banks and, of course, the Feeding America. And I always think it's really interesting because you're a creative type of guy. Would you say you're a creative guy?
I try to be.
You think
I have lots of failures, and so if creative means you have pluses and a lot of losses, yeah, that's me.
Well, I would think in a non-for-profit, you're always trying to think of different ways to raise money.
Yeah.
And raise awareness and advocate for certainly what you do. And so today we're going to talk about creating additional streams of revenue or sources of resources for a food bank. And I, again, always thinking outside the box. Can you give it, because you've been doing non-for-profits your entire life. I don't want to put you on the spot here because we haven't discussed this, but have you ever had, I know you did some license plate stuffs with some businesses you've worked for, but have you ever come up with a harebrained idea where you thought, wow, this could be just a wonderful idea, and you're just like, what in the world am I thinking?
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm one of those that's like, if somebody says, "Hey, Michael, I want to get food to Mars," I'm like, let's go have lunch and talk about it. I'm just open to anything.
Yeah.
Now we likely are going to run into lots of problems along that. But I'm willing to do anything. And there's times where thinking outside the box, and I would say I've been overly optimistic on. I can explain it how I want to do something, and it makes sense to people. And you're like, yeah, but in reality, that's if I'm like, you take A and B and C and D, and then you just add those together, and it creates. And that's if A turns out to work like A should, B turns. So in other words, everything's got to work. If everything worked out perfectly, it could do that. But we know in life sometimes there's big swings and misses. So, I have definitely sold ideas that I firmly believed in, that I was committed to, that I thought, and maybe still think is a good idea, but some of the things around it didn't come to fruition as were necessary. And so are there times where I have to go back to the board with a little egg on my face? And the answer to that question is absolutely. Are there times when people come back to me and go, "Hey, Michael, you were going to do something about a year ago." And I'm like, "Yep, I did." And how'd that go? Well, not near as good as I thought it was going to go, but I still love the idea of thinking outside the box. And the reason it's so challenging in nonprofit space, as I've mentioned in other shows, lots of times we're in communities where we're fighting with other nonprofits for the same piece of the pie. And of course, we think feeding people, look, there's nothing more important, but crisis pregnancy. I mean, people are just as passionate about that, or job training, or whatever it is. Everybody's fighting for the good that they're doing. And I never want to diminish good, but I'm like, look, if I had more revenue, I could, these projects are on hold, but boy, it could really make an impact if I had more revenue. So I can get it from my donors, build my donor base, which I'm trying to do always. Mm-hmm. But then I thought, well, what can I do over here with what we have? What are some natural fits? I'm not talking about me as a food bank going and doing something that's like opening up a construction company.
Yeah.
And finally, I mean, there's no fit there. But there's lots of natural things that you can do. And what made me think about this, I mean, I'd already been working some of the ideas that I'm going to share with you in just a minute, but Food Bank News is always a great source of just kind of what's going on across the network. And there's a guy out at a new CEO for Eastern Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is split in two when it comes to food banking. They have two major food banks. One's a regional food bank that handles about 50 counties and the western part of Oklahoma, and then there's the eastern part in Tulsa. There's a new CEO coming in, and he has exactly my mindset, which is, lots of times you look at, well, what do we have? And they have, for whatever reason, they have like huge ice making capacity. And he's like, lots of times it's a challenge for restaurants that have buffets to keep ice out there, and then people who do special events and all that, ordering ice, getting enough ice, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, hey, we have this capacity. Let's bag it up and let's sell it. We have the freezer space. We'll keep it there. We'll freeze it. And he said it's pennies on the dollar to make. And he thinks for every bag of ice he sells, he can make $2 in profit.
Yeah.
And then he also has other ideas as well. But and that's a very simple idea. But he's taking what he already had. He's not going out and buying a big ice machine. He's already got it. So when I got here, I very much had the same mindset. You have to understand that anytime when you're looking at that, there's always going to be risk associated with that. You can't avoid it. You've got to not be so risk averse that you are afraid to have a little egg on your face if you fail. You can't be afraid to fail. And so just a couple of quick little ideas of what we're doing. One is, we open up every morning here at 6:00. We start serving agencies at 7 and we close at 3:30. And this is for our warehouse people. And then they work a half a day on, so they work 9 hours Monday through Thursday and half a day on Fridays. Well, from 3:30 in the afternoon till the next morning, we have several trucks that don't move. We have this warehouse space where forklifts don't move. None of that moves. And so we have 2 community colleges that teach truck driver training, but they don't have a dock to use. And sometimes they don't even have enough trucks to use. And so we said, okay, how about this? How about I lease you our trucks and our dock space and allow our Alabama Community College system to come along and do truck driver training with our equipment at our location. And guess what? And I'm going to lease that out to you. And these are trucks that we already own.
Sure.
This is property we already own. So all we're doing is just turning that into a revenue stream. So it seems it's very natural.
Yeah.
Another thing we're doing that I'm very excited about, we're not there yet, but we're heading that direction. And there's if you count both partner food banks and affiliated food banks across Feeding America, you've probably got 250 to 275 food banks. There's only 9 what they call protein pack rooms. And I think we've talked about this on another show, what a protein. So for instance, when there's a Tyson plant that donates chicken to us, but they donate it in huge tubs. And obviously we can't dispense it to those in need, to our agencies in need. So we have to pay to get that repacked into 5-pound packages. It has to be relabeled because that's the USDA rules and guidelines, and it's all there for safety reasons. Well, we're looking at putting a protein pack room in our food bank so that when we pick up that food, instead of taking it to a USDA certified facility, we can bring it back there and we can repack it ourselves. But once you have that operational setup to where you're USDA compliant, a USDA inspector is watching you, then guess what we can do? We can do that. We can process food for other food banks who don't have, and really for anybody outside of food bank who needed something processed into a smaller package. And then we could charge, whatever the market value is for that. And even going back to the Alabama Community College system, they have one of the things that they train for are butchers here in the state and getting butcher certifications. So they have the training. A lot of it's online, but then they have to have a lab where they can actually do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, so you want to lease our when we're not using in the evenings, you want to lease our protein pack room to do butcher training and to, and we're like, again, a natural fit because we're using our facilities. Not only are we creating revenue, but we're helping the Alabama Community College system, which is helping give people certified skills that they can make living wages. So everybody wins in this.
I love it.
And you're talking about potentially, you could go from anywhere from 50,000 to 200,000, depending on how busy you are and how active you are. Then you can not, it's not even to mention that you could do forklift training and certification. There's a lot of things you could do. So we're really excited about that. I love the idea, but if you start with the idea, well, this could happen, that could happen, and you're like, you're right, you might as well just not do anything. But I'm out there, I don't look at, what could happen. Yes, you have to do a risk assessment, which we do, and we want to mitigate risk as absolutely as much as possible. But the bottom line is, instead of saying, well, what do we have to do, or, this could happen, we talk about, wow, let's look at what the possibilities are. We can create this huge funding stream that comes in that now allows us to do this project that's going to help more and more people, and it's going to help us be a stronger food bank in our region. And to me, that's why taking a risk is always worth it, because there's payoff, there's blessings for others. And what I found is when you surround yourself with smart people like I do, because on some of these things, I'm not the smartest guy. I surround myself with smart people who help me think through the risk. We lower the risk, we get it as low as we can, and then we move forward boldly. Way more times than not, we've been successful in doing great things. So I just want to encourage those out there who might be hesitant to step forward. Man, just if it's there, surround yourself with smart people and move forward boldly. You can totally turn your current fundraising paradigm on its head if you just look at it through a different lens.
Thank you, my friend.
Enjoyed it.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.